All right, welcome, folks. You're listening to pixelprojectradio, a video game discussions and analysis podcast. My name is Rick. I'm your host, and we're coming to you today in 3D. Glorious Technicolor Dolby surround sound. Doesn't it make you just want to get a bag of popcorn and a Coca-Cola? I'm kidding. I'm a Pepsi guy. Very excited about this. Today we're talking about 3D Dot Game Heroes, a gem of a PS3 game that is sequestered over there, only available to play on the PS3, that is a love letter not just to The Legend of Zelda, but to video games as a whole. Really good stuff. Before we get there, I've got to thank the patrons. The patrons are the folks that protect this 3D Dot Castle from all manners of baddies and beasties. And if you want to join these fine knights, these fine wizards and sorceresses, you can head to patreon.com/pixelprojectradio to see what we've got on offer there. My co-host for today, who I'm very glad agreed to do this episode with me, is Bill, coming from the Gaming and Collecting Podcast and the 3DO Experience. How's it going, Bill? It's been too long.
I'm doing good. It's been a hot minute, I'd say. I have 3 podcasts now since the last time, which is funny, including Geek Addicts. I just want to plug that one there real quick. But I'm doing great, Rick. Surviving 2026.
Yeah, dude, your lips to God's ears. I think we all feel very similarly. And my apologies, too. I forgot about Geek Addicts. You are one of the hardest working folks in these podcasting circles with how much stuff you're putting out. So credit where it's due. Geek Addicts, as well as the 3DO Experience and Gaming and Collecting. I am very thrilled about this because, not just because you and I haven't worked together in a minute, but because 3D Dot Game Heroes has been a game that I've wanted to talk about on this show for a long time. Partly as an excuse to play it, but once I did play it, I was immediately taken aback by how charming and, I mean, quaint is not the right word, but it's an adorable little game that is so funny and beautiful in so many ways. And I'm very excited because I've been wanting to play 3D Dot Game Heroes for a long time, and then I did, and you agreed to do it on the show with me, which is all very exciting because I was taken aback at how much I had affection for this game. We'll get into it. I mean, it's not like it's the most amazing game in terms of a gameplay experience, but what it's wrapped up in, the vehicle in which it is presented to you, the player, it blew me away in ways I was not prepared for. So I'm super duper excited. As far as your history with this game, Bill, like when did you first hear about it? When did you first play it? Do you have any overall thoughts you'd like to share before we start talking about this through the rest of the show?
So my first experience with 3D Dot Game Heroes is, that name is such a mouthful, but I kind of love it. My first experience with this game is actually kind of interesting. So like this game came out around 2010, 2011-ish, I believe. Mm-hmm. I remember because this was right around that point in time where I was first getting into game collecting and I had some disposable income, not a ton, but a little. And this was one of those, like, it was one of those points where you'd go to the GameStop back when they had games, and I would kind of look through the shelves because I was under 18 at the time. It was kind of difficult to pick games I wanted by myself, so I had to kind of make do with what I wanted because, you know, GameStop employees there.
Oh, yeah.
But when I was looking through the shelves, I only had enough money for a used game, but then I noticed on the shelf 3D Dot Games Heroes. I'm probably going to butcher the title multiple times, so apologies in advance. And I saw it on the shelf, and it was notably one of those games that wasn't full price. It was only $40 at the time. The cover art, it's very appealing. Like, it's kind of a game that, like, kind of like you take one look at it and you're like, what is this? And you take a look at the back and it just looks cool. So I was like, $40, cheap, unique looking game. I like RPGs. Sure, I'll give this a shot. So I remember picking it up, and I played a ton of it back in the day because that was back in the day when I had time to play games all the time, and the PS3 was desperate for something. I was playing a ton of that, and I fell in love with it. I played a lot of it, and then kind of forgot about it for a long time. It kind of had this renaissance in recent years where people were just rediscovering it out of nowhere. Probably thanks to a certain YouTuber, which I'm sure we'll mention at one point during this. And it's been fun re-experiencing it. It is kind of a shame it's permanently stuck in PS3 purgatory, but it's one of those games that, like, you just fondly look at whenever you play it.
You're right, man. And it's also one of those games that there's something to talk about regardless of whether you like or dislike it. I think one thing that can be said, for as much as it lifts from so many other things, there isn't really anything that's quite like it in terms of the whole package, in terms of not just its gameplay, but in terms of how it's presented to you, the music, the references, the writing. Like so much of this, it all comes together in a package that is so much greater than the sum of its parts that it's just this magnificent little thing. And you had said this, and I had alluded to it. This is only available on the PS3. It's not ported onto PS4, 5, PC, anything like that. You wanted to play it, you've got to dig out the old PS3, which is what I did, or you've got to go to RPS, what is it, RPCSX3, the PS3 emulator on PC. I've got that working okay with some other stuff. I tried it with Drakengard 3, and it went okay. I was reading online that this game in particular, at least as of roughly like 8 months ago or so, still had some issues that caused some crashing. So
This is a weirdly technical game. Like it's
yeah,
weirdly technical.
yeah, it really is. And I think, you know, I have trouble placing myself back in the contemporary time of the PS3, but you know, when I think of what I was playing back then, the main thing that I think of in terms of games is Final Fantasy 13, which
Mhm.
like if we're talking about, you know, how a game compares to the sort of average thing that the PS3 can handle, I think Final Fantasy 13 is maybe an unfair comparison because that's kind of at the top of the pack. But you are right. There's a lot going on under the hood here.
One thing about this game that's kind of interesting, like for PS3 standards, like when I think of like PS3, like that early era of PS3 where a lot of those games have not aged well, I think of something like Resistance Fall of Man, where like you look at that game, you
Yeah.
go, yeah, that was a launch game, all right. 3D dot game Heroes is weird because like you play it if this game was released nowadays on like Steam, I don't think anyone would actually question it as a PS3 game. I think people would just think it's just a style because it is
Hmm.
a good looking game even today.
Absolutely. It's not dissimilar to like the like Budokai 2 on PS2 or like Wind Waker is the classic example. It's one of those games that's just designed in a way that it's sort of resistant to age. It's going to look amazing in 10 years from now too.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
So if you don't know what 3D Dot Game Heroes is, it is a Legend of Zelda like, specifically the first Legend of Zelda. It plays identically. You're going to do a top down approach, although it's at a bit more of an angle. You're going to go through overworlds and dungeons. You're going to talk to NPCs, do some quests that I've heard referred to as FedEx quests. Like you talk to somebody, go talk to somebody else to deliver something, go deliver something else. I love that. That was Link's Awakening in a nutshell for me. It's very, very much of a similar vein. If you've played The Legend of Zelda, you're going to know exactly what to do here. The difference is in how it's presented, how it sounds, how it's written, and how gosh darn many references to other games and series it makes.
I've seen this game referred to as an affectionate parody, like because this game is like a love letter to this 8 and 16-bit era of RPGs in so many and like adventure games in like so many ways.
Yeah, affectionate parody is a terrific way to describe it. Love letter, homage, an ode to. It wants to pay reverence to everything that's come before, but it's not afraid to poke a little fun.
Hmm.
Let's get into it a little bit. Community forum, we've got none. Can you believe it? Can you believe nobody wanted to talk about this PS3 exclusive that hasn't been popular for about a decade now?
No one wanted to
Decade
talk
plus.
about Inuyasha. No one wants to talk about 3D Dot Game Heroes. I think it's just me, man.
I don't get it. You're picking the AAA blockbusters.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah, not to make an aside, but I had an itch to play that Inuyasha game the other day. I had to talk myself out of it. So,
Oh man.
so the development of this game. This was released in Japan at the very end of 2009, November, came to North America and the EU, as you said, Bill, in 2010, in May, on the PS3, where it remains until right now, 2026, in February. This was developed by Silicon Studio, who at the time did a bunch of mobile stuff, but now they're known for Bravely Default and Bravely Second. Published, you might be shocked to hear this, FromSoft in Japan and Atlas USA in North America, and South Peak Games in the EU. Can't leave out the EU, friends. This was directed by Koichi Watanabe, produced by Koshi Tsuboi and Masanori Takeuchi. Composers, there are 7 listed, and I'm not sure how that hierarchy breaks down. I will say this, though. The first one is Shinji Hosoe. Does that name mean anything to you, Bill?
It's a name that I've seen, and I have to look real quick to see. Ridge Racer, yes. Yes.
Yeah, Ridge Racer, Tekken. The one that stood out to me was Xenosaga 2, which
Oh,
I know that you're a JRPG nut. The Xenosaga 2's OST had two composers, very famously, and a bit infamously, one of their contributions are generally seen as pretty weak, and those were of Shinji Hosoe. Hosoe did all of the non-cutscene music, which a lot of folks felt was too reminiscent of like arcadey stuff, like arcadey dressed up in orchestral like PS2 kind of orchestrations. That may be so for Xenosaga, but here, my goodness, does it work amazingly well. And we'll talk all about the music a little bit later.
They did Zero Escape.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. That's where this name immediately pops up for me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that my first exposure was Xenosaga simply because it's kind of like I don't know, putting you and I in a podcast about fine cuisine, like we appreciate it, but maybe we're not like, experts.
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of the same thing. Hits their stride here, that's for sure. This game, as we've both said, huge love letter, homage, an ode to, wanting to pay reverence to, wanting to, like a little cousin, sort of respecting, but also kind of sometimes wagging the finger, biting the thumb, blowing raspberry, stuff like that. Zelda, biggest influence. This plays identically to your old Legend of Zelda. Also, loads of references, too. At this time when this came out, I believe Demon's Souls was the only From game that was like actually out. So you're going to see a lot of Demon's Souls references. I never did finish Demon's Souls, so I didn't catch a lot of them. And I really can't stress enough. Almost, like, not everything, but there's like a 75% chance something is a reference to something else in this game.
Yes.
The only one that I caught from Demon's Souls was the sticky white goo, which is pretty infamous. You can get that as an item here.
There's also an entire like Armored Core thing, which was another From Software little reference.
Yeah. There is a character named Deke, D-I-C, which is Sid spelled backwards. One of the towns, I can't remember if it's, I think it's Cornelia, which is just Corneria with the localization difference. There's loads of them. My personal favorite, and I'm sure that you love this as well, all of the loading screens are representations from these little dot guys in game of other games and box arts. Like, and it's not just JRPGs. Like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest have the most references outside of Zelda, but this game also references Doom. It references Street Fighter, Metal Gear, Punch Out.
TMNT, that was the first one. Jaws, the LJN Jaws. Like, my God.
Yeah, that's why I say, this is, it's tough to do parody in a way, at least to me, that would be not worthwhile, but pleasurable, funny, etc. to do twice in a row, like a replay, rewatch. This game is that, though, and I think it's because it's not necessarily just punching down at everything. It's kind of like that little cousin that I mentioned, that he's going to be a little shit to all of the older cousins and get on their nerves, but they respect them. They love their older cousins. It's kind of like that here. They're respecting everything, but they're also not afraid to make them look silly and make themselves look silly in the process.
Oh, totally.
It's really quite something.
Like my favorite little reference. This one was kind of like a blink it or miss it one, but at one point you actually get a ribbon, and they make a whole joke about how like, hey, it's a ribbon. I have no idea what it does. Here you go. And famously, for those who don't know, is the ribbon is an item from Final Fantasy. And in the first game in the series, the ribbon literally, they don't tell you anything about what it does, and its stats are terrible. And you're kind of just like, what is the point of this thing? Then you come to find out it makes you immune to every status ailment in the game, and it's one of the most important items possible. But like, I just love the whole, I don't know what this does, but here. And it's like, that's fun. That's a joke not everyone will get.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there are so many little things like that in here, so many little flourishes.
The one that got me to laugh out loud was the when you save the princess and she's like, take me with you, and you can say no, and it literally will just continuously be like, but thou must. But thou must. Like, you can't continue unless you say yes, no matter how many times you say no. I just like, that's like one of the funniest like gags in like an RPG. Like, nothing will ever beat like Super Paper Mario's, where if like you say no enough times, the guy will just be like, oh, okay, then, and just game over right there. But I love that. Anytime they reference like something dumb like that, I'm always like all for it.
Yeah, they've got references to the Demon Souls. Those like little messages, I'm pretty sure, like the floor messages, I think. Some kind of messages in Demon Souls. You can find them everywhere here. There's in every dungeon, they also get a little meta with it. There will be like a dead knight in the very beginning of the dungeon, and it's sort of implied that it's like one of the developers, you know?
Hmm.
And you can find a whole room of quote unquote FromSoft developers in here too. So they poke fun at themselves in that way as well. It's just everywhere throughout all of this.
Oh yeah.
This game too, this is astounding to me. This was developed in 10 months. 10 months. And the development team did not have any experience with the PS3 architecture at all. Well, okay, what it says here is no experience with development. I don't know if that means architecture or just like the development process, but either way, that seems astounding to me. I mean, the PS3 was notably difficult to work on, right?
It could be, especially if we wanted to get like, top of the line graphics out of it. It's one of the main reasons why a lot of American games tended to not run so great because they were usually made with Xbox in mind. And porting, it was more of like, I know porting was particularly a problem a lot of the times.
Yeah, there was a whole kerfuffle about that whenever I was looking up stuff about Final Fantasy 13. And in particular, I think is it Ken Kutaragi? Was that the Sony guy at the time?
Yep, the architect of, I think he was the chief architect of PS3.
Yeah. I vaguely remember hearing that he was pretty cantankerous about a lot of this stuff and didn't really help with the difficulties of the PS3 being tough to work with. But 10 months, incredible.
Everything I've read about Ken Kutaragi is that he was a brilliant guy, but he was kind of a piece of work to deal with.
This game was kind of revealed with a countdown timer on the FromSoft website. It was confirmed to come to the US, to North America, on a tweet. My understanding is that this did not do very well in Japan whatsoever. I think it did much better out here. When it came out, it got generally favorable reviews. A lot of folks, like if anybody was going to critique this game, it wasn't the way it was presented. It wasn't how it looked. It wasn't how it sounded. It wasn't really the writing either. It was just how it played. We'll get into how it plays here in a little bit. I want to talk visuals first, but I would agree with that. I think the gameplay, if you had to pick something, is the weakest aspect of this for sure.
It is a perfect recreation of what they were going for, but at the same time, that's not always a good thing.
Right, exactly so. They put the tracing paper over Goku and traced it, and it's like, okay, cool, but I could get that just by looking at a drawing of Goku, and it's going to be done better that way, and I can't put my finger on why, but it just is. You kind of get that feeling playing 3D Dot Game Heroes. It's fine. It doesn't play terribly. It's pretty good, but there's just something about playing Zelda, which is the same thing. It's just better. But, they set out to accomplish what they wanted to do.
Another thing, too, I found kind of interesting. I was reading a little bit about the development. Apparently, this game was originally kind of conceived as just like a little demo that Silicone made for fun. And then they got a lot of positive reception to it, and they ended up developing it into a full game and got FromSoft on board as their publisher / like marketing team. Because FromSoft, from what I've heard, did most of the marketing for this game.
Oh, interesting. I guess that would make sense if they had a whole countdown about it on their website to release.
And I know when it came to the West, obviously Atlas USA handled it. And I know I was reading a little bit about the when it was first announced to be coming over here. I know a lot of people were kind of worried that like a lot of the jokes or like the point of the game would get ruined in localization. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, Atlas USA is one of the best localization teams in all of gaming, so they did a very wonderful job at, for the most part, faithfully bringing it over.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't. What's funny is that not a single time during my playthrough did I even think about localization because it just sits in English so well. Even the nonsensical, like silly, goofy stuff. The one that I always think back to is there's just this random shopkeeper. You go to shopkeepers and they'll say, "What are you going to buy? You want to buy that? Okay." There's one guy that just I wrote him down somewhere in here as like a little freak because he's like, "You want to buy that?" And he's like all caps. He's like, "You sure?" I don't know, man. It's great.
It's actually really funny. Like gameplay wise, it's definitely Zelda, but like I think writing and like appearance wise, this game is very Dragon Quest.
Oh yeah.
Like it's got a lot of Dragon Quest vibes, like with the how all the writing is almost always jokes, like in the good way. Like the overall appearance comes off very Dragon Quest, especially like Dragon Quest One.
Oh sure, like with the knight and such. I've never played a Dragon Quest, so I'm a little
Okay,
lost.
all right, fair enough. Let's just say Dragon Quest loves their puns. There is some very witty writing throughout Dragon Quest, and I got a lot of vibes from it in this game.
Oh, definitely then. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if the big three are going to be Zelda, Final Fantasy, and Dragon Quest, then okay. Yeah, that's cool. It does have a look that's very much like Dragon Quest. You see your main guy is a little knight. You can also be a couple of different classes, but I think that leads us nicely into the visuals. Let's talk a little bit about what this game looks like. The visuals are kind of this game's defining trait. It's gorgeous. It
Hmm.
reminds me of toys. Like straight up. And I've been thinking about this quite a lot, man. Playing Final Fantasy Tactics, playing the remastering the original, playing Trails FC the original. There are a lot of games that go for this diorama like toy look, and I think there's something really special about that.
Hmm.
And they do it very well. Both Tactics and Trails do, and I love it. But 3D Dot Game Heroes, with the way that they present everything looking like toys, and moving like in stop animation almost, no fluid arm movements or leg movements. You're just kind of like South Park style walking.
Yeah.
There's something about that is just so faithful to that feeling of being a kid on a Saturday, afternoon with your friends, if you were inside playing, that is. And it's just magical.
To me, like one of the most effective things this game does, not going to get deep into the plot, but one of the first things that they do at the start of the game is the literal plot explanation for why the game looks the way it does is that the king is literally like, no one cares about 2D games anymore. Let's make it 3D. And it literally just, the entire world just transitions into 3D.
Okay, first of all, you're not going to get deep into the plot because there really isn't much of one.
No, not
But
really.
second of all, I'm glad that you mentioned that because that intro is really cool. Here's what the intro says. It sets up the plot, and it says this. In the distant past, a small land called Dotnia Kingdom prospered. This peace was upheld by the 6 magical orbs and their 6 guardian sages. But the Dark King coveted power. He captured the sages and hid the orbs. Evil monsters besieged the kingdom, but just when hope was lost, a young man with a sacred sword arrived to rescue the 6 sages. Each sage empowered the youth with their orbs, and the light orb was formed. In the fierce battle that followed, when the youth pierced the Dark King, the light orb shined, trapping him inside a pulsing dark orb. The youth was hailed as a hero, and tales of his bravery spread. The kingdom prospered, and the story brought visitors from afar. But the tale of the brave hero faded into myth. As the kingdom lost its charm, the visitors from other lands dwindled. Where did everybody go? King Tesro launched an inquiry, seeking answers. It became clear to him, people had lost interest in 2D worlds. And so, the king boldly declared, "This is an age," that's how he sounds, "this is an age of 3D." Reform began and hope dawned on the kingdom as it upgraded to 3D. But the king's plans were interrupted by disturbing news. The dark orb was stolen by Fuel, a dark bishop with an evil plan. As monsters filled the fields again, the people could only pray for the emergence of a young hero like the one of legend. You were right. Everything transforms from 2D to 3D because the king's like, we're behind the times, nobody likes us anymore. And they transform into 3D from 2D, and it is such a great transition.
It
It looks so good.
it also sets the tone for this game right off the bat because it's like, oh, they're already being self-referential and aware. Like I'm like, okay, I'm already ready for this.
Oh yeah, and I mean in the first town too. You one of the first ladies you can talk to, she's just hanging out. She says something like, "Man, it's so much harder to clean now that things are in 3D. I have to go
Yeah,
behind things now."
yeah. I love stuff like that.
It is interesting though too. There are a couple of towns like that opening town. I think they did pretty well. The castle I think is pretty good, but there
Mm,
are a few towns that you can definitely feel like, okay, this is a 3D representation of a 2D town because like it feels emptier when it's in 3D. You don't notice it like in 2D when you go to like Lavender Town in Pokemon, for example. You
mhm.
know, it's very empty. And if that were in 3D, you would see, oh, it's just kind of two buildings plus like a cemetery. There's like nothing there. A few towns feel like that here. There is some emptiness, but by and large, I mean, I think they did a bang up job, especially with the environments too. Those feel so true to life. It's pretty much exact. Well, true to life. Yeah, that's not. It's not what I mean. There aren't like monsters and pig goblins outside of my house anyway. It is as true of a 3D experience as an old Zelda as you can get. Kind of in the same way that Link's Awakening is now that I think about it. Like I think they accomplished pretty similar things with that.
No, definitely.
Absolutely. Were there any locations in this game that stood out to you as being like really nice, one of your favorites?
I loved the dungeon looks, like the way that they did like the
Mm.
water effects and like that blue like, shadow effects. It looks so good to the point where I almost like wouldn't even if you told like I said earlier, if you told me this was a PS3 game, I wouldn't believe you. I'd be like, this looks too good.
Yeah, it is really neat the way that they did the water effects. It tricks you into thinking that it is like a flowing reflective pond,
Mm.
but you know, it's not. It's sort of made out of the same pixelated graphics that everything else is. That, you know, when you had mentioned that this game is performance heavy, like there's a lot going on underneath of the hood, I would imagine it's things like that. You know, it's the way that light reflects off of things despite things looking like blocks, because
Oh
that
yeah.
does happen all throughout here. And it's a very subtle touch, and you don't notice it, but you don't notice it because it's implemented so well. And I can imagine that that was a total bear to make the PS3 do, like on a technical level.
So I haven't like I still have my OG PS3, like the big the backwards compatible one. It got loud when I was playing this game at points, and I'm like, damn, this thing is struggling.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think the super slims are pretty loud in general, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was playing mine on. It was just right in front of me, and it was going nuts. So, by the way, if you're out there, this is just an aside, and you're wanting to play this game like on PS3, you got to be aware of a little trophy internet glitch. It's not really a glitch. Sometimes the PS3 doesn't like it if you try to play a game with trophy achievements. There are YouTube walkarounds for it. I ran into that constantly with this game, but
Huh.
it's pretty easy to fix. You just got to disconnect and start the game up slightly differently, and then you're fine.
That's interesting. I have not run into that yet.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird. The way to start it is you just kind of go, you highlight the disk, you go into the options, and then click start rather than just clicking on the disk from the menu. It's not a big deal, and you have to be disconnected from the internet. It's not really a big deal. It's just a little annoying, and I guess it happens enough that there are multiple threads about it. So
Huh. I'll have to keep an eye out for that.
the visuals are used with what's called a voxel style. They're not pixelated necessarily. They're like if pixels were big and chunky. They are, well, they're made with 3D blocks. I mean, that's the voxel graphics. Not dissimilar to something like, I don't know, like Lego or Kinect, kind of. Funko Pops, if they weren't like super smooth, if they were instead blocky. That is sort of what the look is here.
It's like those beads that you like iron to make into like shapes and stuff. Like you see a lot of people will make pixel art out of those.
Oh, yeah.
I know they
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
proper
yeah.
name. I can't remember at the moment.
I just always called them bead art. I don't know what they're called either. Yeah, we made those in school a couple times on like field trips and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, it does look a lot like that. Your characters, the character creation thing is a big one, and is something that people had a lot of fun with. You have a lot of pre-made characters that you can pick from, which, by the way,
Did you
I
play as the
had
tank?
I did not play as the tank. I had two favorites, but you bring up a good point. This game has so many funny and goofy little sprites that you can play as if you want. You can, so I mean, there is one strategy to picking your character insofar as everything has a class. You've got a hero class, which has starts with 5 health and no magic. You've got prince and princess, 4 health and 1 magic, and then you've got your scholar, 3 health, 2 magic. That's just their starting stats. Um, So if you want to min-max the game, that's there for you. But really, you're there to pick what your character looks like, right? You've got your standard knights, you've got your wizards, um, uh, succubus, dwarf, all of that stuff. But then, like you said, Bill, you've got your weird ass shit. You've got tanks. You've got a shark that's just the fin and it only jumps up to attack. You've got a car. The car was one of my favorites because you could see like little blocky bits of exhaust coming out of it. And when it attacks, it lifts up its hood and that's where the sword comes out from.
Oh, it would take forever, but imagine making like Herbie the Love Bug and just going to town.
You could. I'm sure somebody out there has done something similar to that. I also really liked you could be Santa.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, as far as I can tell, they're identical. I couldn't find a difference, but there's Santa, and then there's one called Funky Santa. I don't know the difference, but I was Funky Santa quite a lot.
The creation mode, I will say right off the bat, you need patience because, my God, it is very complicated.
Oh, yeah.
If you have the time and effort, you can literally be anything, and it's kind of awesome.
Did you mess with the character creator tool?
I did a little bit. I found a guide. I was trying to make I tried to make Inuyasha at one point because I found a guide for how to do it, but I was like,
Sure.
this is too much fucking work, so I just kind of stopped.
It is a significant amount of work, yeah.
I did make a really dumb one, though, where I was literally just playing as a giant exclamation point with a sword. And I was like, this is great.
But that's the thing, though, is that people do stuff like that. One of the big selling points of this game back when it was contemporary was that you could upload your creations and folks could see them. And I'm pretty sure other folks could use them too, because there are a lot in this game that have creator credits, like created by, and then there's a gamer tag. There is, what is there? There's an arcade machine, like a 1-up machine. There is, one that I was playing a little bit was a banana in sunglasses on a skateboard. You know, he does a little kickflip whenever the sword comes out.
He's so cool.
People make a lot of crazy stuff. I wish that I would have known about this when it was around and had just come out, because I would have loved to have seen what everybody was uploading and creating, because goodness knows, like, I don't have the patience for that right now. I do not want to sit down and do that.
Yeah, like I think the most complicated stuff I did was like I would make like logos and stuff. Like I made the 3DO logo and I was like, it didn't really work right though. It kind of like the animation was all messed up. So I was like, it was fun to make anyways. It's just silly stuff like that. Like you could really like do some expansive stuff with that creator.
And there are so many characters. There are pages upon pages, and you can re-choose your character, re-roll pretty much any time. Now, like I said, there are some health things and magic things. Never once did I ever think about that one little bit. It's not really about that, although you might want it to be, depending on how far in the game you get. But you can choose your character anew every single time. I don't think it really affects anything. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, wouldn't that affect, if you're being a hero and you get 3 extra hearts in-game, and you choose then Scholar, wouldn't that decrease your overall hearts?
I never did it, so I'm not actually sure if that would do it.
I'm not sure either. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did it. I just didn't pay attention to it.
Did you know about the secret character?
Is that the one that you get unlock after beating everything?
So you can do Spelunker mode.
Oh, I did hear about this. Yes.
Because this game had a partnership with IREM, which is such an odd thing to think, but hey, why not? Spelunker mode is really dumb, but kind of amazing at the same time. It's technically an unlockable difficulty, where you basically unlock it by setting your name as Spelunker, and you play as Spelunker from the 1983 NES game. And this is like super hard mode because he is a 1 hit point wonder. You get 1 hit point and that's it.
Oh gosh.
I tried it. I was like, I died like in the first dungeon. I went, nope.
And when you say 1 hit point, do you mean like 1 heart container, or like 1/4 of a heart container where 1 hit and you're done?
1 hit and you're done.
Oh my gosh.
It is like just stupid hard. It's literal Nintendo hard. And I was like, I'm like, this is funny, but no thank you.
That is insane. That's especially insane because even though like this isn't, I wouldn't say that this is like a quote unquote from game in that way. It does have some from elements to it, and one of them is the difficulty. This game gets really, really tough
It
Once
does.
you like, I think once you get to the water temple, that's where it's like, okay, things are getting tough, and then the temples that come after that, or temples, dungeons, uh, with the traps and enemy placements and the number of rooms that just aren't lit up, it gets really crazy.
No, it really does. It is. This game is like one of those games that you start playing it and you're like, oh, this is easy. This is such an inoffensive game. And then you get farther and you're like, is this the same game I started with? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it really makes you respect it. Like as soon as you start not taking it seriously, no sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, those difficulty spikes can be a bit of a bear. Along with those difficulty spikes, you're going to start seeing new enemies the farther and farther you go. When you first start off, they're kind of your standard, what you'd expect in a Zelda thing. You've got some bunny rabbits that are just rushing at you. You've got these like spider hopping looking things. You've even got things that are, what are those pig things in Zelda called?
I mean, not being a Zelda guy's biting me in the butt right
Moblin?
now.
Is it Moblin?
Moblin, that's what it is, I believe.
Yeah, you've got things that are basically moblins, but the farther you go, you're going to encounter more things that are a little bit more dangerous. You're going to encounter things that are a little bit more dangerous. Centaurs are an early one. They shoot bows and arrows at you pretty quickly. Well, they shoot arrows, not the bows. In the dungeons, you'll encounter these wizard things that can only be defeated in a certain way. Golems start becoming a problem. Scorpions. There's a lot of stuff that gets thrown at you, and it gets thrown at you around the traps that are set on the floors and in the rooms. In addition to the traps, you might have pits and caverns you can fall into. You might have a path that is strictly a squiggly line that you cannot deviate from around all of these traps. They're really not messing around with this stuff. In that way, they kind of said, all right, no, we're going to lean into the soul side of this and make you work for it.
Yes. And it's so unassuming at the same time.
Yeah, it's always fun to get something in a box like this and learn that what's inside is totally at odds with how it's looking. Are there any other visuals you wanted to call out? I mean, the bosses are pretty sweet. All of them I thought looked pretty darn cool.
The bosses are really cool. We haven't mentioned it yet, but like I love when you have full maxed out everything. Your sword is just gargantuan for no reason.
Ah, yes. Okay. That is one of the first points under mechanics. So let's talk about them.
Okay.
You are right. That is that is one of the first things you might notice when you're playing this game, because obviously, you start off with full health. Why wouldn't you? When you use your sword as your guy, when you've got full health, that thing is massive. It takes up almost the whole screen, like the length of the screen. It's not literally, I mean, you can power it up and make it bigger, but even at the beginning, you are going from edge to edge, and it is wide. It's so goofy, but things eventually get so tough that becomes like a serious strategy and a thing to get. Like there are times when you will need that sort of giant sword upgrade. It's funny looking back that what I thought was so goofy and silly at first ended up being one of my best strategies towards the later dungeons.
It's really funny too, because that's like a selling point on the back of the case. Like the big sword is like one of the little teaser images you see, and it literally has the little catchphrase, upgrade your sword by adding length and width until it fills the screen.
And that is not an exaggeration. You can do that. There are upgrades for you to take throughout here. There are also extra swords as well. There's a baseball bat, and I think there's a couple others.
Yes. Very, very goofy stuff. That's just like this entire game really loves to ride that line of parody in like the best way possible.
What was some of the other goofier ones? Isn't there is there like a fish?
There's the fish. The fish one. It's just like you see it and you're like, it literally throws you off guard with how random it is.
I didn't mess with the extra swords too much. I got I definitely got a sword upgrade. I think the holy sword is one that you can get pretty quickly after getting the hook shot. But I don't think I found the baseball bat or the fish sword.
I only know about the fish because I saw it in a video. I never found it though.
Okay. That is true though. Your sword's going to be a big asset to getting through these dungeons and these fields. If you're not at full health, it's just a normal sword. regardless of how long regardless of how long or how wide it is, that's not important, all right? It's fine. There are more important things than length and width. You can when you throw it out. Yeah, we got to stop. When you throw it out, you can swing it directionally. You know, if you throw it out and press up, you can do it like a swiping motion. And it turns out that that is a pretty darn good strategy to know how to do with some of these enemies that come up later. One that I'm thinking of in particular, that I both hated running into and kind of liked puzzling around, are these shadow enemies that will move. They only move when you move, and they move opposite to you. So if you move up 2 squares, they move down 2 squares, that kind of thing. And they do not attack you until you are in their line of sight, at which time they spit at you nonstop.
Yes.
So the strategy for those is to sort of, well, one, you can get them to run into a block, and then, you know, that lets you change your positioning to them. But you want to get up alongside of them so you can push your sword out forward and swing it. That way you're not in their line of fire and you're also hitting them. So your swing mechanic is really, really valuable. So is the length mechanic too, because you don't necessarily need to be fighting right up close and personal. You can also shoot your length. You can also shoot your length across gaps to hit enemies instead of, you know, running all the way over there. It is. It's not just as simple as mashing X.
Yes.
In terms of other fighting mechanics that come from Zelda, you've got items. You've got your boomerang. You've got your bow and arrow, bombs, hook shot, all of that stuff. Those are pretty standard, though. I think boomerang is far and away the most useful, probably, like just in terms of what it can do. You obviously can't get into like secret rooms or rooms in dungeons without bombs, but the boomerang will cause, and I actually don't know if this is a Zelda thing, the boomerang will cause enemies to freeze for a little bit, so you
I
can...
think that's a Zelda thing. I remember that.
Okay. I should have said this at the top. I've never played a 2D Zelda other than Link's Awakening.
I mean, that's fair. Like, the only one I really have experiences with is A Link Between Worlds, so...
Yeah. So if we're not catching Zelda references, I guess now you know why. But yeah, that boomerang is so useful. The bow and arrow, the problem with the bow and arrow is they have an arc to them, which I don't think was in Link to the Past as far as I can remember, but it made aiming with the bow too difficult to even really use outside of the dungeon puzzles.
I rarely would use that thing. I was mostly sword and boomerang and the occasional book.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the books are neat to talk about. You get spells, and they're given to you in the form of books.
Yes.
I did not realize they were books until you said that. I didn't know what they were. But these are called your shader magic, because this game is just referencing itself constantly. The magic is named after, the magics are named after shading techniques, like animation techniques. For example, the first one you get is called parallax.
Yes.
Extremely useful too. Like parallax is the thing in the beginning dungeons, especially, that's going to show you like different switch combinations that'll open doors. Or there's an early puzzle where you this is a Zelda thing for sure, where you have to like go up, left, down, right, like through various squares, but only one way is the right way, and if you take the wrong way, you get teleported back to the beginning. Did I explain that okay? The parallax will show you the proper route so you can get through that. Pretty useful. Also, normal map is one that you get right after that. Not very useful. IMO, reflect, freeze. All of these things are things that you can do in animation.
There was one other book too item that this was just the funniest thing to me. Did you mess around with the bestiary?
I'm never really a bestiary guy in pretty much any game, so no, I didn't.
Okay, I have to explain this because this is the dumbest yet most amazing thing ever.
Please do.
The way the bestiary works in 3D Dot Game Heroes is, rather than, killing an enemy and then it getting added to the bestiary, that makes too much sense. In this game, you have to equip the bestiary and then bash the enemies to death with it.
You're kidding, really?
To book them into the bestiary.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
It is the dumbest thing ever, but I love it. I was like, what are we doing here? Like, this is amazing.
Oh man, that makes me wish I would have messed with that more. I'm never really the kind of person that likes to go in and look at monsters and stuff, like in the data logs, and now I missed out on something so so weird and wacky.
Back in the day, I equipped it by accident, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I just left it, and I killed an enemy with it. It was like added to bestiary. I was like, oh, that's dumb, but cool at the same time.
That's one way to do it.
I just want to know like who in like the development room was like, this will be a great idea. Let's see how it goes.
I don't know. I hope they got a raise though, because it is.
Oh, it's just like the funniest thing, and I'm like, I'm really. It just adds to this game's weirdness that like makes it so unique.
Yeah, you know, speaking of the spells in the books, some of them are really integral to getting through dungeons. Like the reflect is the first one that I think of, and this is honestly this is where I started wondering how difficult the game was going to get. The reflect, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It coats you in this like gold shellacking that will reflect all magic attacks, which is
Hmm.
important because in dungeons you're going to start to see wizards that will teleport in front of you or behind you in some sort of straight line to shoot you with a magic attack. The only way to kill them is to reflect it back at them because your sword doesn't do anything. The other one that you get alongside of it, or like not alongside of it, but like not too long after, is the normal map, which is kind of just a shockwave. And I don't think I used it like ever.
Yeah, you kind of like. I noticed one thing with this game is you kind of get used to like very specific moves, and then you don't really move away from them. You kind of just like once you figure out your tactics, you kind of just stick with it. That's kind of the rest of the game, even though there is a pretty expansive amount of techniques you could do.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I guess whatever works for you, especially as the difficulty starts to ramp up, you're gonna want to just get through. But I mean, you do have some flexibility. You're right.
Hmm.
One thing worth noting though too is characters. I'm pretty sure characters don't really affect your mechanics or making your way through this. Am I wrong in that? Like, our hitbox is actually different.
I don't think so because I played as the tank and did not notice any difference from playing as the regular knight.
The one that I keep thinking back to is the shark fin that's just like sticking out of the ground. And I cannot imagine that the game would just let that be such a small hitbox just for giggles. But at the same time, if it did, I would be like, yeah, of course it does.
I'm pretty sure when you're playing around with like the character creator screen, I'm pretty sure the hitbox is just kind of like that one, like it's straight up just a box, and it's like whatever's inside this box is the hitbox.
Yeah, that's sensible.
For what they're going with, it kind of just makes sense.
Yeah, it would be extremely tedious to have to factor in varying hitboxes as well as a character creator.
Yeah, because well, then it would get super meta because then everyone would be playing as a single pixel and just going with that.
Right. Too much. Techniques. You had mentioned techniques. There is a dash mechanic that you get pretty early on. Like, I'm thinking you get this in the first town even, called the dash boots. And it comes with a mini game that lets you practice it. Mini games will factor in here in a second. The dash mechanic sounds really good and can be really good unless your sword is really good. The dash isn't just like a dash like in Pokemon where you press a button or hold a button and you run. You like hold square, you do like a little Tom and Jerry Scooby-Doo run up, and then you're off to the races. As long as you're holding square, you're going to dash forward with your sword out. You can turn and everything, but you don't stop until you let it go or you bump into something. Now, if your sword is small, which is fine, by the way, you can turn and like dashing is, you can reasonably direct where you're going. But if your sword is huge, I mean, you go what, 3 feet before you're hitting something? It's practically a useless mechanic at
Yeah,
that point. So there's that trade-off.
that mechanic reminded me a lot of in Earthbound when you're trying to teleport and you have to like do that running start, and it's like you'll get so far and then you'll like, just clip something, it'll completely ruin it. Like that was how I
Oh
felt with
yeah,
this.
infamous. I angry video game nerd talking about that is seared into my memory.
It's super funny. But like I was when I unlocked that and was like messing around with it, I'm like, this is literally like the first thing I thought of. It's like you're just about to do it, and then you clip this like tiny pixel and it's just over. And you're like, oh darn.
Yeah, it's just not worth even trying to do if you've got if your health is full and your sword is huge. Or there is also, we should say there is a power up that you can get. Sometimes it'll just pop by killing an enemy that will make your sword huge, even if you don't have full health. And I'm pretty sure it goes away if you get hit even once. But
Yes.
Suffice to say, if you've got full health, you're not going to want to do much dashing. It's a convenient way to get around, though, especially if the area is a bit open wide. Your character's not exactly a speedy sort, so if you're doing some backtracking or exploring, it might be worth it to not use a potion, just so you know that you can do some dashing and get some control of it to, cut down on some time.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of time, though, you can fast travel. That is the thing. You've got your. What's funny is immediately my mind said, like Quest 64. Like, that's a touchstone for any RPG. No offense to Quest 64 official. You've got an item that lets you fast travel to any. Is it store, town, or inn? Is that right, or is it just town and inn?
I think it's town. It's definitely town and inn, maybe store
and castle. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and castle, of course, but you can do that, which is good. There is a quest a bit later. I forget which dungeon it's for, but you are trying to find one of the sages. You heard in the story summary earlier that 6 sages are part of this world. This is standard Zelda stuff. You've the 6 sages, and the hero is going to stop the evil wizard. It's even the final boss looks kind of Ganon-esque, sort of. But there's a quest at some point with one of the dungeons where they'll be like, oh, that sage, he's over in this town. And then you get there and they're like, oh, him, he's over in this temple. And then, and it's just a wild goose chase like that. So fast travel.
Those, yep.
Yeah. Do you remember which one that was? I cannot.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe fire. I don't know. But fast travel there is super duper helpful. Because this world is fairly large. I mean, it
is surprisingly big for what they're going for.
Yeah, and there's a lot of varied locations too. I mean, and a lot of the locations have really, I don't want to call them gimmicks, but they kind of are. Like the quicksand area in the desert is the one that I always think of. That, I mean, it was super frustrating until you figure out the little tell that they give you on how to move forward, but. Those were, did those frustrate you at all?
When I didn't know how they worked, yeah. I was like, are you kidding? It was like every 5 minutes, I'd be like, okay, gotta figure this out again. Yeah. And then but once you figure it out.
Quicksand is maybe not the best word for it. I think that's what they call it, but it's closer to those, like, if you've ever played Pokemon, listeners, and you've stepped on one of those, I think it was Saffron City, maybe? Or like in the Team Rocket hideout, where you where you step on one of those paths and it just kind of spins you forward in a line wherever it goes.
Yes.
It's literally that, except the screen is just littered with them going in all different directions. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get turned around super quickly. Fortunately, they give you a little wink and a nod. The correct way to move forward is by always going through these 2 cactuses that they put in every at the front of every line that's going to take you to where you need to go. But then, of course, if you're getting back or if you're just trying to explore, good luck, pal. You've got to brave these sands yourself.
Yeah. When I figured out it was the cactuses, I was like, I literally kind of had one of those moments where I'm just like, well played, developer, well played.
Yeah, there's just enough of that, though. It's not everywhere. There is another one that's somewhat nearby that, kind of, with a bunch of warp pads that are on the ground. I didn't do too much exploring around there, but there's enough of this sort of environmental stuff to break up like monotony of just, bombing secret caves and killing enemies, that it makes it pretty fun. I think we're both in agreement here that the gameplay is not what you come to this for, but it's not so boring that it makes it tough to play.
Yeah, the gameplay is definitely the weakest aspect of this game, but it's so it's like passable to the point where like you can put up with it just for the experience of like everything else that's going on in this game.
Oh yeah, totally. That's kind of how I feel about it too. Like I would say that I love this game, like not strongly, but I would definitely use the word love, and it has 0% to do with how I press the buttons. It's just everything else, everything that's wrapped in is so nice. And the gameplay is just so inoffensive. I think inoffensive is probably the best word for it, Yeah,
because like when I think of this game, I never think like boring is definitely not the right term, because like nothing about this game is boring. unremarkable gameplay wise though. That is definitely like a fair thing because it is by far the most on the nose aspect of this game. Like this game likes to play around with the whole parody concept and self aware like aspect a lot, but like the gameplay is probably the most like true to text aspect of the game, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I think I would use frustrating more than boring if I had to choose one of the
Hmm.
two. Not just because of the difficulty of the dungeons, but there are some aspects too, like with the hook shot. Excuse me, the wire rod. It's not a hook shot, but it functions like a hook shot. Like
The
if that's
Nintendo lawyers are just slowly
yeah.
walking away at this point.
Yeah, they're cracking their knuckles. They've got their swords filling the whole room. They're ready to go. Uh,
Oh
no, like if you're a little bit off kilter with that, it's not gonna connect properly. That can be a little bit frustrating. I don't know if you want to call this mechanical or not, but there are some timed switch puzzles in some dungeons that can be like really you've got to be near pixel perfect to get through those doors. It feels like to me anyway.
That was one of my least favorite parts of the game.
Yeah, that's I mean that there's difficulty in those puzzles too because I mean those switch doors are a great example. There can be two or three doors that need to be opened by the switches and you don't need to press all the switches. So you have to know which switches to press and also the best way to press them to get through if you want to. And to its credit, I mean that's strategic. It's nice to get into a dungeon and have to think a little instead of just going through rooms, mash XXXXX because you got to kill the enemies. That is pretty nice, but it's something about the way that your character moves and the quick timing or precise placement of the wire rod that made that kind of I don't know. It made me a little angry at times.
Yeah, there were a lot of moments where I was like, that's frustrating.
Do you think this game plays better, like just your opinion, using the analog stick to have full range of motion or using the D-pad to, you can use full range of motion, but get that more precise up, down, left, right kind of deal?
I primarily use the D-pad just because the way this game is designed, it kind of my brain just kind of that worked better. One thing that I actually do think the benefit of this game being on PS3, because the DualShock is essentially a Super Nintendo controller, like it
Mhm.
felt more natural than it really should have. It was like, oh yeah, this feels right.
Yeah, it does. It does feel right using the D-pad. And then it also lets you in that case do those not just those straight up, down, left, rights, but you can still move in full 360 degrees with the D-pad. But some of the areas do feel like they're designed more with the analog stick in mind, and I guess that's good that they have areas that can, I mean, not just be used for both, but maybe feel better with one versus the other, like they're designed with one in mind to encourage players switching. One that I think of immediately, I mean, you mentioned that you prefer the D-pad. I prefer the D-pad. There's a mini game that you get with the dash boots called, I think it's just called Dash Race, where and if you're
Yes.
trying to use the analog stick with that, I mean, good luck.
This game, the mini games are fun in this game because they're all basically parodies of like arcade style games, and the Dash one is literally like one of those old top down like Rally X style racing games, and it works way better than I thought it would, and it is. I messed around with that one a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, the dash one is super fun. Yeah, and you still got your sword. It's not going to be sword in like big mode. It's just your regular sword. But
Hmm.
you've got to do laps around this track with a couple turns here or there, a couple trees in your way, and if you're trying to use the analog stick to turn left, right, up, down, I mean that's going to be tough for you. And it's tough enough on its own, to be honest.
I just imagine if this game made it to the 360 using the 360 D-pad, like, oh, that would have been a experience.
Yeah, no thanks. Ironically, though, it would work. I mean, for as much as I don't like the Nintendo controllers of today generally, I mean, the Joy Cons this would this would work terrific with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Basically a split D-pad functionally. Yeah, the mini games are many. There are many of them. One of them that I played the most recently And you can, by the way, you can go back and play these at any time. Like they're not time sensitive or anything. At least I don't think they are.
I was playing them by the end, so I don't think they are.
Yeah, there. Well, I mentioned that because there are side quests all throughout this game that are time sensitive. And
Yes.
if you complete a dungeon, for example, before doing that town side quest, you might not be able to do them again. Which is that a Zelda thing too?
If it is, I'm not sure. That's more just like an RPG mechanic, I'd say. My favorite RPG series is the Tales series, and like Tales games are infamous for that. Where like if you don't do certain side quests at specific times, they just disappear forever. So like when I saw stuff like that, I was like, oh, great, more of this.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of them though, so even if you miss a couple, you're gonna have plenty more. That actually makes sense too. I was trying to go back and do some after beating certain dungeons, and I was wondering what was going on. So I guess that's fair. All that to say, the mini games aren't time sensitive. There are a couple that are really well known. Some maybe less so. One that I had just found the other day, like right before stopping to take notes on this stuff. I don't know what this genre is called. I feel like a dumbass. Is it RTS where you place like towers that and catapults and stuff like that?
Tower defense.
Tower defense. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's called what it is. That was a lot of fun. That mini game took me like a half hour to get through.
It's like the freaking a Fort Condor in like Final Fantasy VII, where it's just like this like expansive mini game that's just in the middle of the game for no reason.
Oh gosh, yeah, Fort Condor. I don't think I ever did finish that ever.
I've done it once and it's not worth it.
That tower defense one is, at least out of the ones that I've played, definitely the one that takes the longest. And I mean, you can sit there and do it for as long as you want too. Thankfully, the mini games also let you tap out as soon as you're ready, pretty much any time. But there are tons of them throughout this. I think I would wager to guess the most famous one is Breakout.
Now the question is though, is it because of the game or because of the music track?
That's a great question. It could be either. The game itself, though, I mean, Breakout, the game, I mean, it's just a good version of the game. It's Breakout as you would expect it, but with your little guy with his shield. You run slower or you run faster when you're not shielding. So you want to be running without shielding. And then if you want to do like a minute movement before the ball hits you, you could throw up your shield, move a little slower, but you've got to have that shield up to throw it back. There are blocks that will be stronger and take more. There are power-ups that let you just blow through any of them. I had a lot of fun with this. I actually willingly played this for a couple rounds.
I would honestly just play that game to hear the song a lot of the time. It is a very good Breakout Arkanoid style game though. Like in a lot of ways, like that's one of my favorite just casual like games in general. It's just like a Breakout Arkanoid style game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any collection that's got Breakout, I'm going to be playing that at least once. Did you play any of the other mini games?
It was mostly these three. I think I missed the other ones, to be honest.
Wait, are those all?
They might be, because I'm not sure I saw another one.
Yeah, okay. I'm pulling up a couple different pages. Yeah, I might have misspoke. I think that's all of them.
Because I was wondering, I was like, how did I miss all these other games?
Yeah, that's my bad.
Oh, no worries.
But you are right in that Blockout might be the most famous because of not just being a good minigame, but because of the music. I don't think we can dance around it any longer. Let's talk about the music. Hey all, Rick and Bill here. All right, there it is. We had to get it out of the way. It's acknowledged. Scott the Woz made this. It's so funny going through this OST and seeing every track like 200 plays, 500 plays, 670 plays, and then you get to Breakout. It's like 12,000 plays.
And the best part is you look through the comments and just trying to find a comment that's not a Scott the Woz reference.
Yeah, this is like playing 3D Dot Game Heroes at Scott the Woz's house.
You'll see like three like, guys, is this Gex Night? Or something about throwing a game in the toilet.
Yeah, I fucking love the economy.
Yeah. This is just a bread box.
Low key. Not counting any of our mutual friends that do YouTube. Never count any of them because that's not fair. Scott the Woz is my favorite gaming YouTuber, like by far.
Yeah, it's easily either him or like Nitro Rad. They're like the two probably best ones out right now.
Okay, music. Bill, tell me about the music.
So the music is fun because it is essentially 8-bit classic style music. But what's fun is it is done in that way where it sounds 8-bit, but it can get around all the limitations of 8-bit. So they actually do some fun stuff. The melodies are just so well composed. Like it fits every area. It's weird because I'm not even a massive 8-bit music fan, but like I love the way they handled it here.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page with this one. Speaking of the 8-bit sounds, though, like 8-bit, 16-bit sounds, and speaking of Breakout, which is the song with the game Blackout, and I think I think you and I both said them both ways. Probably was my bad for setting it up, but anyways, that song that comes with it, the snare that it uses alongside of the melodic synth patches is that kind of that 8-bit like that they use for. Oh God, I'm gonna cringe listening to that when I'm editing. But that kind of like static that they use for drum beats, you know, It's really cool. It's cool how they meld those two together with orchestration sometimes, and 16-bit sounds and patches.
It's so cool how technology has advanced to a point now where like they can actually take what was originally music based around like limitations and like fully expand it into like these like proper like art forms.
And I think, I don't think it was you. I was talking with somebody recently about, modern games really, there's become a trend of trying to emulate PS1 and 64 era, which is funny because we just got out of a trend of emulating 16-bit and everything, but that's still pretty popular. And like, I don't know, as a concept, what are your takes on that? Do you like that kind of thing?
I love when they do the 2D stuff because that is like my favorite era of 2D gaming. Deliberately crappy looking 3D games, it depends on how well they handle the concept. Because a lot of the times I'm always like, this is just a style that doesn't really look great all the time. Especially, it depends what system they're really going for too. Because I know there's a lot of like PS1-esque games that it's hit or miss to me.
Yeah, no, you're right. Hit or miss is the most reasonable way to explain it. But one thing that I think you tend to notice when games do try to do this is, and I stole this from somebody 100%. I don't know who, I don't remember who. I've been saying this for years now after stealing it from them. But I've heard this described as like retro, if you spell it like boutique, RETREAUX. The kind of gentrification of retro, where it's like, they go for the graphics, but they still want to show off what they can do, like technologically with their animations and stuff. And it's not always a bad thing, but if you're being very cynical about it in the worst of ways, it can come off as like just doing it to be popular, that kind of deal.
Yeah, like a game that does it, that's actually from a fairly significant series, actually, to me is Sonic Mania, believe it or not. The whole like design behind that game was it was intended to be like the lost like Sega Saturn Sonic game if it was made like using like the 2D graphics engine and like stuff like that. But like the way that I really like it hit me was when you get into like the special stages and they use that kind of low poly 3D almost Saturn look. And I'm like, oh, I see what they were doing here. Like something like that. Like that's a cool tribute.
Yeah. The reason that I wanted to bring it up, though, is because that happens with music, too. And this is just a personal opinion. I think it works with composers trying it more often. But at any rate, 3D Dot Game Heroes does that. It tries to emulate the sounds and the soundscapes of the older games, but allows itself to flourish with modern hardware, with a mix of old and modern sounds. And it just knocks it out of the park. Like I'm hard pressed to say whether I think the visuals or the music are like the highest selling point for me personally. And that's not even accounting for the writing, which is also an incredibly high selling point. This soundtrack is honestly going to be in my top 5 for the year, guaranteed. I can't imagine it won't be.
Oh yeah, like it's so well composed and like One of the ways that I kind of noticed right away that the compositions alone were like top tier was I did the thing I usually do when I find like a song that I really like. When I was listening to Breakout, I was like, I want to see it. Is there a Genesis remix of this? And I'm like, yep, of course there is.
Oh, okay.
And I'm listening to that, and I'm like, this could work. Like if they were doing like the Genesis sound font, like these are well composed songs. And like to me, like that, like right there is just immediately a sign of like a well designed, like well composed soundtrack.
And that's probably what they were going for too, because a lot of the Genesis era, Genesis Super Nintendo tracks, they couldn't make these intensely complex, huge pieces like we can sometimes see today,
Yeah,
or
unless
even
you're
just,
like Boho Imatsu, but that man was different.
yeah. He was pushing the boundaries of what he was doing. You get that same sort of vibe here with these compositions because they're not trying all the time to do anything overly complex. The melodies are singable. The harmonies in general aren't too strange, although there are some that get pretty interesting. And there's not a lot of competing voices or sounds at the same time. They keep the number of instruments and sound patches not low, but tame enough that sound doesn't become muddied. And that's from those days of limitations, like you said, Bill. They couldn't do it back then because it would sound like shit, and they're taking that philosophy here too. And the result is, if you take Breakout and put it into the Sega Genesis font, you get a piece that just works.
Another thing too that like makes this soundtrack what makes it so like perfect to me is the fact that like none of these tracks get repetitive to me. Like every track, like I was never a point where I got sick of the music. Like even like listening to Breakout on repeat for like an hour, just playing that minigame, it never got old. And like that is another great sign of a well-composed soundtrack.
There are a lot of them too. Like I found one or two that I genuinely did not care for and probably will never listen to again just without playing the game. Mm-hmm. It's one of the early ones, Prairie Temple, I think.
Yep.
I don't care for that one very much at all. But the hero's theme, the traveling theme, I think it's just called the main theme in the track list, is an excellent example. I think that is like a quintessential representation of the feeling of being a protagonist in an adventure game like this. When I think of quintessential adventure, RPG themes, number one that comes to mind is Terra's theme, world map theme from FF6. That's like nothing is more Final Fantasy than that. 2 Xanarkin from 10 is like a close second. But anyway, like when I think of 16-bit adventure games, it's something like this. Like this is it. This is the game. It's perfect.
The only other like theme like that's like just like quintessential JRPG to me is like Blue Fields from 8.
Oh, of course.
It's another big one. But no, I get what you're saying 100%.
It's not just the fact that they use trumpets to make it sound like a fanfare. They've got like the snare drum doing a sort of, not march. The snare drum is driving the movement forward, like you might have in a fanfare. The trumpets are playing high in their register, and not just high, but like with declarative articulation. And you get that, I didn't analyze the harmony, but like the that sort of half step there, that is I'm pretty sure Koji Kondo uses that exact same progression in Zelda music because it feels so heroic.
It does.
It honestly, it might just be a secondary dominant, and I'm just being a freaking dork about it. But it works so stinking well. And there's oh gosh, I think it's one of the. I was going to say, I think it's the one where you're walking through the woods. What's it called? And then I saw it on my phone. It's called Through the Woods. It uses those like, it almost sounds like a toy recorder. You know, the ba 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 da 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 da. I love that so much. I could listen to that on repeat. I'm pretty sure I posted that in your server too, and I was like, I can't get enough of this.
I love when a soundtrack is fun, and this soundtrack is very fun.
I think fun is a great way to describe it too. Like every single thing, even the stuff that gets like a little bit creepy is not the right word, but like, you know, you're in the dungeon and things are going to get intense, and you've got to go say, oh my god, how did we not mention Lee, this game's version of Navi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is a parody in this game, and I love it.
Yeah, you get your own Navi. She's a fairy. She's not as pestering as Navi is. She only really comes out when there's stuff to say, like to a sage. But at the water temple or the water whatever, she gets captured by an octopus, or what looks like an octopus from underwater, and she's taken down. And you save her at the end hilariously. And I don't know if you did this, Bill. When I was in that dungeon, she got taken, as it goes, and I wanted to use a sleeping bag to restore my health, but I couldn't. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go outside of the dungeon. I'll use a sleeping bag to restore my health, and then I'll just save my game and I'll come back later. If you leave the dungeon after she gets captured, she just reappears and she goes, "Woo, that was close. I don't know how I got out of there." And then if you go back in, she's like, I don't know. I've got a bad feeling again. What is it that happened last time? And then she just gets taken again.
I did not do it. That is wonderful.
It's so good. But like, even when you're in like tense situations like the dungeons like that, the music still has a sense of, at the very least, curious adventure, if not outright fun. You're totally right. We would be remiss too, and this was my bad when we talked about the music up top. There are several composers. It's not just Shinji Hosoe. In fact, you look up 3D Dot Game Heroes compositions, composers, etc. Another one, well, first of all, if you look that up, immediately in the results is the song Breakout from the Scott the Woz wiki.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
It's not even his the theme anymore, but it's still going to forever be part of it.
The composer of that is said to be Shoichiro Sakamoto, who confirmed on his website that he composed a lot of this stuff. Do you happen to know offhand what else he's done, Bill?
I don't. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, which makes it difficult.
He's got an 11 Eyes wiki page. Bill and I were talking a bit. It was edited out for all of you listeners. You'll never know what we said. But one of the things that we said was neither of us are familiar with Shoichiro Sakamoto. From what I could find, it looks like the game that he is associated with is 11 Eyes, as well as the anime series. I've never heard of this before.
On Internet Movie Database, he's listed on a few games, but not as a composer. He's mostly listed as like a sound support or sound effects editor. Like he did sound effects for the Naruto Clash of Ninja games, apparently. So
interesting. There is a post on Reddit that you can find if you search, if you search like Breakout, Blockout, or Shoichiro Sakamoto. There's a Reddit post where somebody had email correspondence with them, and it's very cute. He puts in a parenthetical. I don't understand English, so I use Google Translate. Very sweet. But he lists some of the tracks on 3D Dot Game Heroes that he composed. Combat, The Lost Forest, Dash Race, which is another really good one. High energy, high octane. The editing theme, another terrific one. But he says Breakout as well. He adds at the very end that he is, quote, especially happy to see that Block Destruction, aka Breakout, is so popular.
Yeah. Do you think he's aware of why, or do you think he's just happy to see it being talked about?
I think I would not want to be the person to explain what a YouTuber is, especially not a white one that proclaims himself a lover of virginity as Scott the Woz to an older Japanese person.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know. That is a great question.
I just want to know who the person from Silicode or FromSoft is that said no to Scott using the theme on TV.
I don't know. In some ways, I'm glad that they did. It seems like he is branching out to be more of himself in every way. And also the music stuff that he has done and commissioned, like with 8-Bit Big Band 2, is pretty goddamn good. His I'm Not an RPG Guy video with the song it's way better than any YouTuber has any right to be making something like in the video game space. Like
he made a Shoji Meguro like Persona 5 song, and it's like, this is great.
Yeah, dude, like It's one thing to have like podcasts like ours where it's like, yeah, we talk about games. It's funny. It's also, smart, whatever. It's another thing, to do the donkey style thing where it's, you're just super funny editing, funny voice. Scott is like making full on productions, like movie level productions. It's kind of crazy.
Scott is uncontroversial and literally like just like moves on with the time. Like his videos are so timeless that like you can watch even like aside from his like recap like videos that even he says you can't really that are timeless. Like everything else you can watch at any point and be like, oh yeah, this could have been made today.
In addition to Shinji Hosoe and Shoichiro Sakamoto, got to do the due diligence to give everybody credit here, especially since this soundtrack is so gosh darn good. In addition to those two, you've also got Ayaka Saso, Yosuke Yasui, Teruo Taniguchi, Takahiro Eguchi, and Norihiro Furukawa. All of those folks worked on this together. Not sure of the hierarchy. Hosoe's name is always mentioned first, so I'm assuming he took the lead and kind of directed everybody. But there you go.
He's also the only one with a notable Wikipedia page, so.
Yeah, and having done quite a bit of stuff too. Yeah, the music is incredible. I hope folks have liked it. I'm going to be peppering in as much of it as I can all throughout here. It's so full of character in a way that, I think you said it best when you said hit or miss with a lot of this callback stuff that's trying to embody the feeling that we had playing these games as kids or the feeling that we had when we saw them or heard them. It can be hit or miss. And I think... I think 3D Dot Game Heroes, when it tries, it hits it. But also, it's very clearly not just trying to stick to that. So much of this sounds modern, that I don't know. It's nice to hear. Oh, I guess I could say it this way. It's nice to hear a soundtrack where they're not doing what the gameplay is doing and just kind of tracing over the picture of Goku, so to speak.
Yes.
You could do a lot worse than trying to imitate Koji Kondo, but, if you're doing that, why not just listen to Koji Kondo? So this is usually where we talk story, narrative, and stuff like that. We kind of already covered that. This game... it doesn't really have a deep story, and you're not here to play it for the story. You're here to exist in this world as we've talked about it, with the music, with the visuals, how the game feels in the hands, the wacky writing, the dungeons, you're in it for the whole package. Story is just never really at the top.
It gets to the point where, like, you'll be playing through the game and, like, a plot element will pop up and you'll be like, oh, right, there was something going on here.
100%. And they kind of sum it up at the beginning, and you know exactly how it's going to end. Of course, the hero is going to save the day. You're going to save all of the sages. Of course you are. It's not going to end up any different. So we're not going to talk about story, obviously.
The best way to describe the story is it's literally the plot of Zelda 1. It is literally like it's there, but it means really nothing in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that way, we're not going to, go through it beat by beat. I actually did find a podcast that did that. It was pretty boring. Not because of them. They're good. It's just hearing about dungeons beat by beat. It's pretty boring. But if there's anything like I don't know, is there anything else about 3D Dot Game Heroes that we didn't get to, or that I moved us past that you wanted to call out? Like, I know there's so much humor in this. There are many more locations that we didn't talk about. We did talk about every mini game, despite what I accidentally said. I don't know. What else stood out to you when you played this?
There is one thing, and it's not even about the game. Do you know about the U.S. advertisements for this game?
Oh my God, yes. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you go. You after you.
So, the best way to describe the way they handled advertising this game in the U.S. is, if this game is a parody of Zelda, like RPGs, every ad is a parody of some ad in the U.S. at the time. And it is glorious.
Yes, I was totally unfamiliar with these until we decided to do this game. And the one that I sent over to you was one of my favorite styles of commercials back in high school, the Old Spice guy. where they're
Yep.
like,
I'm a
look at
tank.
the ground. Now look at me. Now look at the ground again and back to me. And here you are. And and like, I'm going to, if I can't remember, I think they have the audio. I'm just going to put it in if they do.
Hello, players. Look at your kingdom's hero. Now back to me. Now back at your hero. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he was made in 3D using the 3D Game Heroes character creation tool, he could look like me. Look down. Now back up. Where are you? You're in the 3D kingdom of Dotnia with the hero your kingdom's hero could look like. What's in your hero's hand? Now back to me. It's a sword that shoots beams. Look again. The sword is now a giant fish. Anything is possible with the 3D Game Heroes character creator. I'm a tank.
What other kind of parodies did they do with these?
So they did one that was a parody of the Dos Equis ad with like, the most interesting man in the world. they did that one. And then they did one that's just straight up a parody of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme. And it's like, what is this?
The theme?
Yeah, it's like a very loose interpretation of it. And I'm like, wait a minute.
You are kidding me. I'm about ready to close this podcast down right now just to listen to it and then come back.
I'll see if I can find it.
Hey all, Editing Rick here. I did find the rap that Bill was talking about, and I think he might have oversold it a little bit. It's not quite like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but it does have that really, really endearing kind of earnest cheesiness to it that you found a lot in the early 2010s. That "Hello, my fellow kids," but before it became kind of, well, I'm going to play the whole thing anyway and enjoy this blast from the past.
So what can you do in Dotnia once you're done messing with the editor?
Just sit right back and you'll be amazed. These block minigames will keep you busy for days. Destroy all the blocks on the screen and block out. You gotta rock the blocks, and that's no doubt.
The waves of enemies that are so intense, Black Tower save the day in block defense.
Last, there's a mode where the fast can work it. Set your quickest times in the super dash circuit.
3D Game Heroes got the blocks that rock.
Under $40 while it's still in stock. Pre-order it now, you'll be sad you missed them.
Available exclusively for your PS3 system.
I guess that's as good of a way as any to sort of cap this, is like, we're talking about all of this, you and I, and we're talking about how much we love the visuals. We're talking about how freaking amazing the soundtrack is. We're talking about how funny the writing is and how self-referential and how much it kind of pokes fun at and loves the games that came before it. Not to mention, I don't think we should ignore this. The level of research they went into to being able to cite all of these things and recreate the box arts on the loading screens. All of this stuff is like the marketing now too is so good. Why do you think it's still sequestered on the PS3? Why do you think we can't play it modernly?
That is a really good question, because this seems like a game that would be perfect on like Steam or like the Switch or hell, PS5, whatever the Xbox is called now. Because this game is like literally like a perfect modern indie game. And I don't know, it's weird. Like, I know this game, it's sold decently in America, but even like compared to like most things, it didn't sell particularly well. It's kind of like a cult hit in a lot of ways. Yeah. I wonder if it's one of those cases where it's like the rights are kind of just in limbo right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or their Silicon just isn't aware how much demand. Well, that's another question. Is there even demand for this game? I don't really know.
Yeah, I had wondered about the demand part was one that I had wondered about too, because, it did reasonably well in the US, but I didn't see anything saying that it was like a success in Japan.
No, it apparently bombed in Japan from what I've read. Like, it did not sell well despite the amount of effort FromSoft put into advertising it. And over here, it did well for Atlas standards. Keep in mind, this was pre-Sega Atlas. Anything was good for Atlas, basically, by that point.
It's got to be a combination of these factors. I also wonder, too, is, like, how busy is Silicon Studio with Bravely, like, with that series?
They didn't even develop the Bravely Default 2, so I'm not even sure how involved they are with that.
Oh, that's true. That's true, isn't it? And Bravely Default 2 is the one that kind of brought it all back into being popular, right?
I think so. I mean, they did just re-release the first game, but I'm not sure if they were even involved with the re-release. Actually, now I'm wondering, what is Silicon even doing? Their last game was 2017. That's not good.
Yeah, that's not a great sign. Yeah,
and it was a Mistwalker game, or a Battle 2.
Yeah, I mean,
That's,
between that, maybe the reception, a lot of folks, especially younger folks today, probably just don't know about it. Maybe it has something to do with Atlas not having been with Sega at that point, or from now, being from and having
I
enough on their plate.
I wonder if it's just because maybe From technically owns the rights to it, and they're just too busy.
Yeah, I don't. It's one of those things though that you said this up top, and you said it better than I could, but I agree with you completely. If this released on Steam, you couldn't tell that it wasn't made today.
Yeah, it is. It's got such a timeless look. You know, another thing too, I was thinking about, like, because I've seen some people talking about this game and be like, why was there never a sequel? And I'm always like, because it's a perfect one and done game. Like, I don't think it needs one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game that is like perfect the way it is, and it doesn't need to be touched. I think, like, not kind of a re-release, but like, it's like literally a perfect. It's perfect the way it is, and I don't think we need to expand on it at all.
Right. I mean, a lot of the times it's easy to be a little cynical about this stuff and like, oh, well, they just did a sequel for money, But with this, it's like there would be no other reason to do one. It's just a Zelda adventure story, and at the end, you get a happy ending. Like, why would you make another if it wasn't just to cash in on that,
It is. It's also a truly like one of a kind game. Like when you look past the fact that it's just a Zelda clone, it's there's no other game that is like this game. Like it is so unique, and I think that's part of what makes it so special.
Well said, man. You are spot on the money. Having a sequel, or I mean, I don't know. What do you think about a spiritual successor?
A spiritual successor that does its own thing and like in its own way, I'd be perfectly fine with that. That could be interesting. It's kind of one of those things where it's like if they made like 3D Dot Game Heroes 2 and it was just the same thing and they just tried doing different parodies, I'd be like, that's the
Right.
I wouldn't love that. If another studio wanted to give it take a crack at it and see what they could do, yeah, I'd be all for that.
Or maybe at this point it would be like a love letter to the PS1 and 64 era, and we'd get like a Ocarina of Time kind of deal.
That could be fun. Like I wouldn't be against that as long as they did it like as like an affectionate, well done parody. I'd be all for it.
That's true. But I mean, in that sense too, though, that the dot style wouldn't really work very well with that. I think it would be more. I think it would cause more problems than I think it would do good with that. So I mean, it would be fundamentally different no matter what you do. It would basically just be another creative work from that team, which is fine. I mean, they proved that they could do something really cool and creative. So it's like, yeah, you can give me something else, even if it's not exactly the same or even related to it. But that's just, I mean, that. Oh yeah, sorry.
I was just thinking like what games could be considered similar to this one. The closest game I can think of off the top of my head that has a similar vibe to this game. Have you ever played Evoland?
How's it spelled?
It's like Evo, like Evolution Land, basically.
I have not.
Evoland is kind of it's a cool idea where like it's like an old school RPG, like similar to like Zelda or like Final Fantasy, similar concept. But the gimmick of the game is you start out in like this like black and white, like one screen, like little animation, top down game. And then you slowly pick up these things that add different elements, like you unlock, say, scrolling movement and color eventually gets added. And the game evolves from like a top down, like Zelda style game to like a straight up turn based Final Fantasy by the end.
Oh, no kidding.
Like it goes 3D at one point. Like they add load times, which is one of the funniest because it's like no one asked for that. It's a very charming game. I think I believe it's on Switch, Steam, all the stuff. It did get a sequel. I've never played the sequel before, but it is it kind of lives in that sort of parody where they kind of play with stuff like that because you play as a character. Like, I think your main character's name is Clink, and like he
okay.
runs into a character named Karis, and at first I was like, these are random names, and then I look at the characters in 3D. I'm like, oh, it's Cloud and Aerith. Okay, I get it.
That's awesome. Evoland. I'm going to check that out. That is such a cool concept. It's one of those things I'm hearing it. You're telling me this and I'm saying like, that is so creative. And also how have I never thought of that myself? People are so creative, man. Like that's one of the things that I love about the gaming space is it's so large and there are so many people involved that these creative ideas are just, they're everywhere. It's just when, I'm not gonna derail this into this, but it's when the companies step in and they need money. So things that are very expressive and creative, like 3D Dot Game Heroes and what it sounds like Evoland, like the really risky creative stuff, it doesn't make as much money. So then it gets, sheltered and kicked into the PS3 and forgotten forever.
Forever stuck in PS3 purgatory.
Yeah, and I mean, of all the consoles to be stuck on forever, like that generation, PS3 and Xbox 360, I think that might be the worst gen to be stuck on.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about other games from that era. Like we've gotten very fortunate. Like Bamco has given us like 3 of the Tales games that were stuck on PS3 finally. But then like you think 360, like Lost Odyssey, that's forever stuck over there. Blue Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of games like that are just lost on that system forever right now.
Yeah, and I mean, prior gen, with the exception of Xbox, things are pretty reliably emulatable, and those consoles are not overwhelmingly expensive. PS1 generation, no problem. The Saturn's really the only one that's a little finicky with emulation, but it's also come a really, really, really long way. And
It has.
you can basically reliably emulate Saturn these days. It's not like, 5 years ago when it was like real touch and go. PS3 emulation, I mean, I don't want to say it sucks insofar as it's bad. It just sucks to tinker with all that shit, man. It took me so long to get Drakengard 3 working.
It's just one of those things that's unfortunate, especially the farther we get into gaming.
But I mean, I guess on a more hopeful note too, is the farther we get into gaming, the more folks are going to have opportunities to come in, whether through the success of like the bigger companies or through the success of smaller ones too. Like 1000 Times Resist is a great example that I just finished up. I mean, that's a small studio. None of them are game developers by trade, and they still made a crazy, crazy good smash hit. So, we might get another 3D Dot Game Heroes pretty soon.
I hope so, and I hope it's just as charming in its own unique way.
Well said, brother. On that, I think it's about time to close this out. I'm glad that we got to talk about this in general, and I'm glad that we got to talk about it at length and not like rushed. This is a very special game, even if some parts are pretty derivative of, mainly Zelda. This is 1000%, I think you'll agree, worth playing today, right?
Oh yeah, no, this game is an absolute love letter to like anybody who's a fan of this style of game.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a Souls sicko, this is from. And it's, there are some Souls-like elements within it. I mean, at least in terms of the difficulty anyway. There's something for a lot. There's a little something for everyone. But it's worth your time. If you're not opposed to emulating, you can do it. If you're not opposed to buying original hardware, which I think Bill is all in favor for, you can. This game, by the way, is not too expensive. I think
the Scott the Woz bump is gone, so it's gone back down to being somewhat affordable again.
I think when I bought it, it was around 50, and I think you can still see a lot of listings around 50. Price Charting has it at like 40, but I didn't check to see if there are like any outliers, like $15 sales that are messing with that. So if you're cool with burning $30 to $50 and have a PS3, I mean, go for it.
No, 100%. It is just a very pleasant, joyful game to play, aside from the difficulty spikes. But that's just part of the game. That's just gaming.
Yes, sir. That's 3D Dot. Ooh, you're right. It is a mouthful. That's 3D Dot Game Heroes, everybody. Thrilled to have played it. Thrilled to have had Bill back on the show. And speaking of, Bill, I don't know if you all know this, Bill has, what is it now, 15 podcasts? 18? 20?
It feels like it sometimes, I'm not going to lie. I have 3.
Bill has got 3 podcasts, Gaming and Collecting, 3DO Experience, which as far as I'm aware is the only 3DO podcast that's still running, and Geek Addicts. And I would like Bill to tell you all about it. So Bill, tell the good folks at home what you're doing and what it's all about. And if you have any episodes you want to recommend too, by all means.
Thanks, Rick. So for Gaming Collecting, that's my longest running show at this point. It's a gaming and anime based nostalgia podcast I do with my sister Alex, where we meet up once a week, and we'll talk about a variety of different topics over the years that we've been doing this. We jump around between like anime, gaming, just general life stuff every now and then. Occasionally we'll just do an episode talking about, we went to a concert and talking about the experience. We like to talk about our convention trips. If I was going to recommend a gaming and collecting, I would definitely say This one is pretty old, but Rick was on it. The Great Controller Debate. That one is still a classic, even to this day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when the often forgotten Sega Pico came up.
Which is so funny. Another one I'd recommend is, this is very recently. We did this last year, but I got bullied by 3 friends and a sister into watching Attack on Titan. We did a whole discussion about it, and it was a very fun time. I'd highly recommend checking that one out for one of our more anime-centric episodes. As for 3DO, that is obviously a 3DO retrospective podcast I do with my buddy Thrak, where every week we'll talk about a different game or sometimes like a system or developer from the 3DO. We've been just kind of going through the console's library. A lot of our more modern episodes have been pretty good. We've really found our footing there. If I had to pick one recently, we did a crossover with Remember 64. Shout out to those guys. We covered Sarge's Heroes 1 and 2, the 2 Army Men games. I'd highly recommend checking both of those episodes out. And then for Geek Addicts is a general pop culture podcast I do with my buddy Matt, where we just talk about a variety of different geek-centric pop culture topics. Once a week, basically. Just it's a good way to catch up with a friend, I'd say. And if I was going to recommend an episode from that, I would say we did a couple Inuyasha retrospectives that went over very well.
Absolutely. I second all of that. And yeah, the 3DO is great because that is a forgotten console, a very interesting console, a fascinating part of history. I don't mean to plug an episode that I was on because I don't necessarily think it's like the best 3DO episode because, you guys have had better guests than me. But I came on to talk about a game called Virtuoso that is, whatever you're thinking it is, it's not, and you're not prepared for what it is. It's insane. The 3DO has a lot of really cool stuff, so definitely check all of Bill's shows out. 3DO is one of them. You can find links to Bill's stuff and where to find Bill and Alex and Thrak and Matt all in the episode description. Find links to their socials and etc., Discord, whatnot. You can find our stuff there of the same caliber as well. Caliber's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Blue skies, the Discords. The Discord is free, by the way. You can feel free to join. Patreon as well, if you're so inclined. Although there are now free options to join, and I do put stuff out for free folks. For folks who are joined at the free level, that is to say. So you can find all of that there. Stuff for the show, Pixel Project Radio, stuff for the shows, Gaming and Collecting, Geek Addicts, and the 3DO Experience. Thank you if you're a listener for sticking around till the end, as always. Thank you again to Bill for coming back to the show. Glad to have you. And I think that's about all for today. So with that, that's all. We're going to sign off for the day in 3D once again. I can't think of any funnier jokes to make. What a disaster. All right. I'm Rick. I'm your host. We'll see you next time, folks. Take care.